Hello and welcome back to Building New Virginia. Today on this episode, I am going to just be working on the station for New Virginia, and the station is 4th Street Station. So 4th Street Station is a station built by the Pennsylvania Railroad sometime back in the turn of the century era, between the late 1800s and early 1900s. It was expanded back then, and it's got its current head house that it uses now, and it also had a few platform extensions probably, and maybe even this got grade separated back then, who knows. But that's when I envisioned the bulk of the station being built, and then later on, we're now in the 21st century, right? And so this station is obviously in the possession of Amtrak. We're on the Northeast Corridor, so all of this is owned by Amtrak. And so Amtrak currently in its projects right now is sort of going through and reworking a lot of stations on the Northeast Corridor. Stations like DC, Baltimore, I believe Philadelphia is also getting a rework, and so I wanted to sort of get in on that as well with New Virginia and sort of play along with that story. And so I'm using it as an excuse to rebuild the entirety of 4th Street Station. Now, 4th Street Station has been around in the city for a long time. This was here since the beginning. It was originally envisioned as just a terminal for commuter rail, but then I decided it made more sense for this to be the main inner-city NEC station. I originally thought about Western being the inner-city one, and that one is the one just across the Chaptico in the Union Square area, just across the bridge of River Road. So that one I thought was going to be the inner city one, but it kind of didn't make sense with its orientation, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have that be the inner city one. And so I changed it around, and now 4th Street is the current Amtrak one, and so you can get on any of your NEC trains here, your Northeast Regional, your Acela, I guess any of the other sort of special services like Vermonter, whatever it is, you can get on here. It's the main inner city hub. There's also commuter rail trains in here. The Industry Line, which is the NEC line, just parallels the entirety of the NEC. Its major terminus / hub is right here. The scheduling on the Industry Line is a bit weird, kinda. There's peak-oriented expresses that happen only at peak times in peak direction, usually towards DC, or whatever the fake DC is. Those happen in peak direction and peak time, and those run like expresses, and they usually try to focus on park and rides and major areas that you think commuters would want to come from, and also shortens the trip time between New Virginia and whatever that city is called. Then they also run just normal Industry Line trains, and those stop at all stops, and those generally run a 15-minute headway throughout the day, and they have some reverse peak service, but that's only between DC, the DC knockoff, whatever it's called. I haven't really come up with a name, and New Virginia, and that's, only on the southern portion. Between the northern portion, which probably goes to some like Perryville or maybe even a Newark sort of area, Newark, Delaware, that is, not Newark, New York, New Jersey. Every New Yorker has now hated me for saying Newark is in New York. But anyways, between a sort of Newark, Delaware, or maybe Perryville, Maryland, the northern trains turn around at. They have very limited service, probably mostly consisting of hourly throughout the day, and not even that, probably during some of the off-peak times and weekends. The northern section doesn't get a lot of love, and most of the urban section is paralleled by the Blue Line Metro. If you remember last episode, North Roland, that area, the Blue Line sort of parallels most of the NEC through there, now, so I think they don't really have a lot of incentive to run more on the northern part, even though they probably should, but they just don't, because, they run all kinds of metro services throughout the day on the Blue Line, and so it just gets a bit, ignored and such. So that's sort of the overlay of services, and so this is a huge transportation hub in the region. The orange and red lines also connect through here on the north-south trunk. So this is only a one-stop ride away as well from, downtown station, which is currently the main transfer station between all the lines. And so that's sort of the setup right now. So the way I'm building the station is I'm using the freestyle station mod. I saw Grant T use this a lot in his Scottish series, and I thought this might be a better fit to do some of the more technically complicated stations throughout the region, because it allows me to do much more flexible elevated stations, much more flexible than I could do otherwise. And it also allowed me to, create this nice little interior area, which you see me working on now. And so yeah, I'm sort of using those freestyle stations and the viaduct pieces to curate this sort of interior area where people can actually walk through, and there's a path underneath there. So that's cool. I made sure to make the station 100% ADA accessible. There are elevators, but the sad thing is it's only designed to work for lower platform heights, because it's, I think, designed to work around European platform heights, which are generally lower than most North American ones on the NEC, because we use high level boarding, which is generally at the level of the train above the bogies, right? And so there's no little steps or ramps inside the train. It's sort of flat, kind of like how the UK's work, kinda. I think we're a little higher on that respect though. And that's only in the Northeast Corridor really, and some of the commuter agencies around it like NJT and the New York area ones, and some of the MARC ones as well. MARC Penn Line, that is. Throughout most of America, we use low levels, which are a little higher than the track height. But here on the Northeast Corridor, we use high levels, but I can't really represent that with this mod. I could with the other station mod I was using and originally used for 4th Street, but the trade-off is that with that mod, it was much more difficult to sort of curate the, again, sort of elevated aspect built over the tracks and allow me to create that interior, as well as adding a bit more character to entrances in it. And so I decided to go freestyle and sacrifice the sort of operational realism with not having high level platforms here, but it still looks good and it makes up for it. I also lost that nice little canopy over the commuter platforms. It was nice actually having that little thing cover over the terminating platforms, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I can't think of any other station on the Northeast Corridor that has something like it, and so it just doesn't really work. And yeah, it got removed. It doesn't come back. Can't really do it with this station mod, sadly. Oh wow, that wind is loud. Yeah, I'm currently recording this when it's very cold and windy outside. Anyways, the station, currently right now I'm trying to place down the station building. I'm using some of these assets for the industrial buildings. This is the one that's used for the goods factory, and sort of trying to redo what I had originally, which was 2 of those, and I think I have it in this version. And yeah, having what I had originally for it, having this little step area, and so the stairs don't protrude out. I just realized I messed that up right there with the current commuter platforms. I go back and fix all of it though. I've had this footage for a good few months now, right? But I just haven't had the inspiration to really finish it all up. There was more footage I was thinking of putting in with this episode that would have entailed me doing some stuff to the north, but I kind of decided when I was going through the footage today to put this together that I should put that in another video at some point rather than this one. And so this one is just the rebuild of 4th Street. So in the cinematics you might notice there's a bit more done that you didn't quite see that was built on camera, and yeah, that's just other stuff I was building. There'll probably be in a future video, if I ever do that. I probably will, but it'll come when it comes. I can't make any promises anymore. Inspiration is quite a big whim. It sort of just is when it is. Anyways, just currently finishing up the platforms right now. Sort of trying to make them the correct length as well. Yeah, it's a really big station. Anytime I open it on, like, to edit it, or, well, with the old one, anytime I opened it to edit it, it would take a huge hit. It would just stop, and then a few moments later, I'd open up the thing. And even still, when I was in the sort of station editing area screen thing, it would still only get like barely any frames per second. It was noticeably slow. Yeah, this is a huge station, and it still is like that for the freestyle ones. When I went to go and put the canopies on all the platforms. Anyways, I've transitioned to another part of the footage. The station has progressed. I've put the canopies up on the platforms now, and I'm trying to build some of the areas around the side. Just looking at the height of the station below, making sure I don't try and clip into it. So, like, for the blue line, when it goes west of downtown, it goes through the Old Town station, and so when I was constructing the canals for Old Town, I used the viaduct pieces, right? But because they're sort of designed as a viaduct, so it's expected that the track will be really high up off the ground, and so it had all this stuff underneath the ground, and it actually goes right into the heart of the Old Town metro station from the canal. And so there's all these blocks in there, and it's just really weird when you take a cab ride through the blue line and you just see you're approaching Old Town and you just see these blocks in the station. It's like, what? So I was just trying to check and make sure I wasn't going to do that again with the Penyard/Calder Square station. Oh, and yeah, I think I do this in the video. That area just to the north of the station, where the sort of newer high-rises are, that area is called Calder Square. Why is it called Calder Square? Calder was a rich industrialist in New Virginia. He was the main one who ran the 2nd Street streetcar lines. 2nd Street streetcar lines were the ones that ran up along 2nd Street between downtown and the city border to the north. And like 2nd Street is like, if you know of like York Road, I think is what it's called. It's the main road that goes from Baltimore to Townsend. I was kind of thinking that's sort of what 2nd Street is like. It's this big arterial that takes you all the way up into York if you just keep following it. And so Calder built a big empire of streetcars up along it, and he was extremely wealthy, so he could put a lot of money into the streetcars. And so they were extremely well run, and he was making bank on them, and especially driving lots of development in the north side, which is how it got so developed in the first place compared to some of the other areas, So he was making bank off of that, and, he died. And one interesting thing is that the 2nd Street lines, later when they were sort of realizing the pinch of traffic and also dealing with other streetcar operators in downtown New Virginia, they wanted a brand new tunnel to be built under 2nd Street and sort of do a proto Stadtbahn like what Philadelphia or Boston has. And they run the streetcars in the tunnel underground all the way until their sort of terminus, which was the loop at Jefferson Square, which is where the metro station is now, right? And so that was sort of the initial plan. And so it fizzled out when World War II hit. The plan hit a snag, and then people weren't as willing to fund something while they were kind of like in the middle of a war, and so it didn't get built through then. And then after the war, interest kind of failed on doing that again. It was also denied in the Depression. That's when it was proposed. During the Depression, they didn't want to fund like some expensive money to go to a private person in the middle of a huge depression of the economy. And so that's the first time it failed. Then obviously the second time was like sometime in World War II. And beyond that, it kind of lost steam. And so the idea was eventually picked up by the NVTA when it was in planning, And so they built the current 2nd Street trunk, which is what the red and orange lines use between the north side and such. And yeah, it eventually sort of panned out. They eventually did get a subway of sorts, but it wasn't with streetcars, and those streetcars are all now gone. They're all just been incorporated into the bus system now. So you get some, you won't lose some. Anyways, I put like little path alongside the station, create like this little bike path that they might have done, sort of increase accessibility for people on bike to the station. I'm using these like store assets from the German buildings mod. I can't remember. I think it's like the Stadt building set or something for the S-Bahn. I can't remember. But they come with stores, and I was kind of using those as like little stores in the station. Little retails, cafes, and such to get stuff. Anyways, now I'm doing the signals, so, the station is guarded, and so trains can wait. Doing this on both ends. I need water. Yep, alright. Alright, doing more signal work, trying to make this operationally work. I think I'm ready to open this up again. Nope, I'm putting little barriers on each side. Alright, yeah. At some point, I think I make this operational. I hit play and have it go. Or maybe not. Maybe I start working on the Calder Square area. Still waiting. Okay, never mind. Right. Okay, so I work on the parking lot next. I thought I would have played and sort of had the station running for a bit. Never mind. So, you can tell how long it's been since I recorded all of this. Anyways, this is me building a parking lot because there needs to be more. The parking levels in this city are admittedly a bit too low to be realistic. There needs to be more just empty wastes of just parking lots. So, adding another big one here. I mean, though, to be fair, Baltimore and DC aren't that bad when it comes to parking craters. DC especially. Thanks Metro for really revitalizing downtown. But yeah, the main parking crater is like in between the Noma area and Gallery Place. And then Baltimore, from looking around, it doesn't seem to be that bad for parking craters. It's pretty good. It's okay, I'd say. There's a few noticeable areas, but they're mostly on the skirts or like on the other side of the highway where they got bombed out because of the Jones Fall Expressway. That area right to the east of it. But yeah, on the whole, Baltimore, yes. I was going to say Boston. Baltimore isn't that bad, so yeah. But there still needs to be more areas of sort of like just empty parking. And so I thought this would be a good location for one. Just my usual parking lot, give it a nice little worn down asphalt texture. Then put in some parking spaces with the parking space mod by Mad Hatter, I believe. Then putting down some water decals with the dirty water. I just love doing that now. It creates such a cool aesthetic to have these like little puddles of water throughout the parking lot. It kind of gives it a post-rain aesthetic, but I think it still kind of works. Like maybe it's just damp and such. And then I put down another asphalt, but a brighter one to sort of give this sort of like worn and filled in pothole effect where the cars are driving around. And yeah, that's the parking lot done. It doesn't take much to really get an effective looking parking lot. Next up is me closing down a street. So imagining like they closed down the street here, permission from the government to do that so they could sort of work on construction. This is probably going to be some high-rise transit-oriented development right now. The station entrance is right by it, so they're currently like building up the building, This is an empty lot inspired by one that I saw in Noma, where it's just like this little field with some gravel at the bottom and a little drive through it and some trucks parked there. I believe now, in real life, the area I took inspiration from in Noma is actually developed now, but I decided to have this little nice field, showing the various stages of transition this area is going through, This is one that sort of took off now, much more recently, and has been one of the big areas with a lot of housing construction going on. And so I wanted to sort of show that, it was probably driven by first the metro, but now especially they sort of built a streetcar to really try and get developers building in this area. And so there's still some old vestiges of a more industrial area. For example, I'm currently trying to copy the style I used from the self-storage lot in North Roland and building another sort of small self-storage facility. This one, though, is probably going to go away pretty soon, eventually just to be redeveloped into more housing or towers of whatever description this area has seen. And so its days are numbers, but it's an older facility, but still self-storage nevertheless. And that's me realizing that I had variable length turned on and it looked weird. So yeah, just another self-storage facility. This one you actually get to see me building and sort of trying to design it. These are all pretty plain developed uses of land. I mean, kind of boring. Just asphalt with some garages and people can just pull up and take stuff or store stuff. Not much interesting going on. If you notice, those fences, those are the bushes. It's because of I use my winter trees mod that they look a bit like, or they don't exist at all. Far away you can see them, but up close they're sort of gone. I know they're there. When it becomes spring or summertime, they'll reappear. What is this? This is another thing taken from Noma. This is like a newer office building built, but they built it just as like, it was built sometime in like the early stages of redevelopment, and they were like, yeah, this is gonna rejuvenate the area. And so they built this huge sort of lawn out front that has just nothing on it, and it sort of sits there. Not a lot of parking, but this huge lawn. So yeah, another area inspired by Noma, the district in DC. Anyways, this is coming up towards the end. So yeah, that was a very quick build to build this. I'm almost done. Ooh, the no collisions mod. I love using that to sort of build these planters out. So I use like a mod I have from tpf.net, and I can put like these little planter things and then put the trees on them, and it actually looks really nice. I recommend that. Get no collision mod or skip collisions. And finally, the last build I'm doing right here is going to be a gas station of some sort. So using those garages done by Siri, and then using the Basher Hack stuff to sort of create like this little convenience store, and eventually I'll use that to sort of make the roof. Ooh. My voice is quite dry from having to speak for about 20 or so minutes straight. Great. It's almost done. So yeah, I guess while this sort of finishes out, and my voice is about to die, I'm gonna take another sip of water. So yeah, the video is about to be done. The cinematics were interesting to get for this one. When I was trying to film some of them, depending on what angle I used, the computer would literally run out of video RAM, so that was fun. So yeah, that was interesting trying to do that. I was playing this big overlay shot as well, but that didn't pan out because it crashed. So anyways, thank you for watching, and yeah, enjoy the cinematics, and bye for now.